nightly business report.
Good evening. Tonight, in order to encourage domestic economic growth and move inflation closer to the 5% target, the Monetary Policy Board has decided to keep the overnight policy rate at 8%. Following the government's decision to discontinue the streamlined VAT system, Sri Lanka's garment exporters anticipate higher financing costs. On the third trading day, the S&P SL20 and the All Share Price Index both posted negative results, which caused the Colombo Stock Exchange to drop. And as investors evaluated declining consumer sentiment statistics and placed bets on more accommodating trade policy posture from the Trump administration the following week.
From Studio 24, here's Anuradhi Vikramasinghe.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Monetary Policy Board has decided to maintain the overnight policy rate at 8%, aiming to bring inflation towards the 5% target while supporting domestic economic growth. The decision was made after evaluating both domestic and global economic developments.
Inflation remains negative due to repeated reductions in electricity tariffs and fuel prices, but is expected to turn positive by mid-2025. Projections suggest inflation will reach targeted levels by the end of the year. The domestic economy showed strong recovery in 2024, following 2 years of contraction with indicators pointing towards continued growth. Rupee liquidity remains in surplus and market interest rates have declined in line with eased monetary policy stance. Credit flows to the private sector have stayed robust, supporting domestic economic activity. The external sector has performed better than expected with strong exports and increased imports widening the trade deficit. Foreign inflows into the government securities market and improved official reserves have bolstered confidence in the economy. The Sri Lankan rupee has seen only marginal depreciation so far in 2025. Increased foreign purchases by the central bank have further strengthened the country's financial resilience.
The government has lost over 78 million rupees in revenue due to the failure to charge registration fees for 296 motorcycles, according to the Committee on Public Accounts. The issue was raised during a meeting on the 21st of March, which reviewed the Department of Motor Traffic's operations. COPA also found that 3,088 motorcycles were registered without cabinet approval and lacking legal documentation. The committee scrutinized the Auditor General's reports from 2020 to 2023, revealing a pattern of illegal vehicle registrations. Additionally, fraudulent practices, including issuing certificates for illegally imported vehicles, led to losses of 1.2 billion rupees. COPA has called for immediate disciplinary action and an independent investigation into these ongoing irregularities. Sri Lanka's apparel exporters expect higher financing costs following the government's decision to end the simplified VAT scheme, which will lead to increased operational expenses due to VAT payments on local inputs.
Sri Lanka's Department of Inland Revenue will categorize exporters into 3 risk tiers under a new VAT refund structure. Low and medium risk exporters will receive VAT refunds without audit, while high risk exporters may face delays of up to 6 months pending audit clearance. Joint Apparel Association Forum Secretary General Johan Lawrence warned that the apparel sector could incur an additional $8.73 million annually in interest costs, even with a 45-day refund timeline. Industry representatives also expressed concerns that higher domestic input costs could shift sourcing strategies, making imported materials and overseas subcontractors more attractive. Authorities justified the SVAT repeal by citing potential revenue leaks, but exporters argue there's no evidence of widespread abuse. They believe the new policy unfairly punishes compliant businesses instead of targeting violators. The SVAT system was introduced after a major VAT fraud case several years ago.
The Sri Lanka Agripreneurs Forum hosted a workshop on carbon footprint and climate reporting at Cinnamon Lakeside, addressing the importance of sustainability reporting standards. The event brought together corporate leaders and sustainability experts to discuss strategies for carbon footprint miscalculations and emissions management. SLFRS S1 and S2 standards, now mandatory for listed companies, were highlighted as crucial for aligning with global regulations and enhancing financial transparency. Experts also discussed emerging trends in climate finance and the regulatory chances impacting businesses. Encouraged by the strong turnout, SLAF plans to expand the workshop series to further support businesses in meeting climate accountability requirements. This initiative underscores Sri Lanka's commitment to fostering a greener, more responsible corporate sector. Ceylon Energy, in partnership with HJT China, has successfully completed the Mahiyangana and Kappalture 33 kilowatt power distribution lines and the Uhana gantry, marking a significant milestone in Sri Lanka's supporting electricity supply reliability improvement project.
Ceylon Energy, in partnership with HJT China, has completed the Mahiyangana and Kappalture 33 kV power distribution lines, marking a key milestone in supporting electricity supply reliability improvement project. This transformative project aims to enhance energy access for underserved regions of Sri Lanka, covering 2,372 kilometers of low-voltage line extensions and 106 rural electrification schemes. CESRIP will provide reliable electricity to over 35,000 households, including those in former conflict-affected areas and remote provinces. The project's focus on upgrading the medium voltage network will improve electricity quality and reliability for over 493,000 consumers. Additionally, CESRIP is integrating renewable energy sources into the national grid, supporting the country's sustainability goals. The Mahiyangana and Kappalture power lines will boost local businesses, schools and households by providing stable energy. Ceylon Energy Chairman Madhushankar Fernando described the completion of these lines as a new beginning of a brighter era for Sri Lanka's energy landscape.
Let's take a short break now. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. The Colombo Stock Exchange experienced a decline on the third trading day as both the All-Share Price Index and S&P SL20 showed negative results. Market activity remained fluctuating with investor sentiment. For further insights, we speak with Akna Tennakon from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Anuradhi. Much like yesterday, the Colombo Stock Exchange saw a subtle downturn. The ASPI remained gripped by intense volatility and dwindled towards the latter part of today's session, even though there was a slight uptick during the early hours. Selling pressure that became prominent towards the second half of the session drove the index down, prompting the ASPI to conclude in the red at 15,848, having registered a downtick of about 60 points. Selling holdings, John Keel's Holdings, H&B, DFCC and Central Finance were the major contributors towards today's ASPI's downturn. In terms of turnover, today's turnover also dropped, ending the day at 1.6 billion rupees from yesterday's 2.9 billion rupee mark. This is also lower than the monthly average of about 2.1 billion rupees. Similar to yesterday, the banking sector dominated contributions to turnover, followed by the capital goods sector and the food, beverage and tobacco sector. Thank you.
A Treasury bill auction was held today with bids received for various maturities. The auction saw strong demand with significant amounts accepted across all maturities. The weighted average yield rates remained consistent with the previous auction. For further insights on this, we speak with Ranjan Ranatunga from First Capital Holdings.
Thank you, Anuradhi. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka conducted the second monetary policy review for the year today. At the Monetary Policy Review, the Monetary Policy Board decided to keep the overnight policy rate unchanged at 8% at its meeting held yesterday. The board arrived at this decision after carefully considering the developments both domestically and globally. The board remains confident that the prevailing monetary policy stance will ensure that the inflation will move towards the target of 5% while supporting the growth of the domestic economy. After the monetary policy review, In today's Treasury bill auction, weighted average yields remain unchanged. CBSL partially accepted the total offered amount of 73.4 billion rupees and all the 3-month, 6-month and 12 months bills were oversubscribed. The weighted average yield for the 3-month bills remained unchanged. The 3-month bill yielded low acceptance of 4 billion rupees compared to the offered amount at 20 billion rupees. The yield for the 6-month bill stood at 7.84% and yielded an acceptance of 31.2 billion rupees compared to the offered amount of 30 billion rupees. On the other hand, the weighted average yield rate of the 12-month bill stood at 8.25%, yielding an partial acceptance of 37.4 billion rupees compared to the 50.5 billion rupees offered. Thank you.
Gold prices fell slightly in Asian trade today as traders took profits while awaiting more details on US President Donald Trump's trade tariff plans. Spot gold dropped 0.1% to $3,015.73 per ounce, while May gold futures fell 0.2% to $3,048.25 per ounce. Copper, which had earlier surged to over 9-month highs, sharply dropped on reports that Trump plans to impose tariffs on the metal. Broader metal prices also retreated, with focus shifting to key U.S. economic data expected this week. Despite the decline, gold remained above the $3,000 an ounce level, close to the record highs reached earlier in March. Investor demand for safe haven assets like gold remained resilient despite recent fluctuations. Oil prices rose in Asian trading today, extending their gains for a 6th consecutive session following a sharp drop in U.S. crude stockpiles. Brent oil futures for May increased 0.4% to $73.29 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude rose 0.4% to $68.84 per barrel. The price surge was fueled by data showing U.S. inventories falling below expectations. However, gains were limited as traders remained cautious amid ongoing Russia-Ukraine peace talks. Yesterday, oil prices were slightly higher after President Donald Trump threatened tariffs on oil imports from Venezuela. Despite these concerns, agreements between the U.S., Ukraine and Russia to halt attacks on energy infrastructure helped cap further fuel price increases. The Sri Lankan rupee has seen a notable appreciation against the US dollar at commercial banks today compared to yesterday. According to the central bank, the buying rate of the US dollar remains unchanged, while the selling rate has also held steady. Let's take a closer look at the rupee's performance against other major global currencies in today's market. Break now. This is the nightly business report. Welcome back. Sri Lanka has launched Alipay Plus, enabling over 400,000 Lanka QR merchants to contribute to cross-border mobile payments with tourists and overseas customers. Sri Lanka has launched Alipay Plus, enabling over 400,000 Lanka QR merchants to accept cross-border mobile payments from tourists and business travelers. During the first phase, merchants will be able to accept payments through 14 international e-wallets connected to Alipay Plus. Alipay Plus, a cross-border mobile payment solution by Ant International, connects over 1.7 billion users worldwide through 36 e-wallets and bank apps. Travelers from 10 countries and regions will be able to make payments by scanning the Lanka QR code at participating merchants. The e-wallet partners enabled for cross-border payment acceptance include Alipay, GCash, Touch 'n Go, and others from countries such as China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and South Korea. LankaPay CEO Channa De Silva emphasized the initiative's role in enhancing payment convenience for tourists while attracting foreign exchange to Sri Lanka. Lanka QR, introduced by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in 2020, standardizes and connects QR-based transactions across the country. Standard Chartered Bank has announced its decision to exit the wealth and retail banking business in Sri Lanka. This move is a part of a broader strategy to streamline operations and focus on markets with greater scale and strategic importance. SCB Sri Lanka has informed its employees and customers with the divestment pending regulatory approval. Until the sale is finalized, the WRB division will continue its operations as usual. Despite this change, SCB remains committed to Sri Lanka, continuing its corporate and institutional banking operations. The bank, which has been in Sri Lanka for over 130 years, will maintain its role in connecting the country to global markets and investments. The 91st Battle of the Saints, featuring St. Joseph's and St. Peter's colleges, will be held on the 3rd to the 5th of April at the SSC grounds, with Dialogue Asiata as the major sponsor. The match is contested for the Peter A. Pellegrino Memorial Trophy.
Dialogue Asiata has announced its sponsorship of the 91st Battle of the Saints, the prestigious annual cricket match between St. Joseph's College and St. Peter's College in Colombo. The match is scheduled for April 3rd, 4th and 5th at the SSC grounds. This sponsorship highlights Dialogue Asiata's commitment to supporting local sports and educational institutions. St. Joseph's College will be led by Kenneth Lienage, while Owen Selga Dugan will captain St. Peter's College. St. Joseph's College has secured 12 wins in the match history, while St. Peter's College has won 10 times. The match is contested for the Peter A. Pellegrino Memorial Trophy, and many alumni have gone on to represent the national cricket team. Dialogue Asiata's involvement ensures the event's continued success and celebrates sportsmanship among Sri Lankan top schools.
Singer Sri Lanka PLC has launched the highly anticipated Nubia smartphone series, combining innovative technology and sleek design. The new lineup features 3 distinct models: the Nubia V70 series, Nubia Music and Nubia Neo Gaming series, each catering to different user needs. The Nubia V70 series, including the flagship V70 Max, boasts a 6.9-inch display with a 120Hz refresh rate and a 50MP AI-powered camera. The Nubia Music series offers an immersive audio experience with a 2.1 channel system and a 600% volume boost, paired with a 5000 mAh battery. The Nubia Neo Gaming series is designed for high-speed performance and stunning graphics, led by the Nubia Neo 3. Singer Group CEO Mahesh Vijayawardena highlighted that the new range reflects Nubia's innovative spirit and their mission to deliver top-tier smartphones to Sri Lanka. SLT Mobitel Enterprise, in partnership with Red Hat, recently hosted a customer forum to showcase its enterprise-grade Akaza Containers Red Flavor platform.
SLT Mobitel Enterprise, in collaboration with Red Hat, recently hosted a customer forum at Monarch Imperial to showcase its Akaza Containers Red Flavor platform. The event brought together industry leaders, technology experts, and key stakeholders from various sectors, including government, enterprise, SMEs, and developers. Akaza Containers aims to modernize IT infrastructure with efficient containerized application management, offering enhanced scalability, security, and agility. The platform, built on Red Hat's OpenShift technology, simplifies managing containerized applications, providing automated orchestration and advanced security features. It is designed for mission-critical applications across banking, e-commerce, telecommunications, and government sectors. The forum featured live demonstrations, technical presentations, and expert panel discussions, offering valuable insights into cloud-native application deployment. Participants also gained knowledge on how the platform supports digital transformation while reducing operational complexities.
Brussels Wellness recently launched a new range of wellness teas offering 5 distinctive categories aimed at enhancing overall well-being. The event held at Amari, Colombo featured distinguished guests from various sectors including Mr. Nishant Jayasuriya, the CEO of Rich Life Dairies, as the chief guest. The tea range includes Ceylon Health and Wellness Teas, Ceylon Artisan Teas and Ceylon Ancestral Herbal Infusions, Ceylon Fine Teas and Ceylon Organic Specialty Teas, each crafted to nurture the mind, body and soul. A portion of sales from Ceylon Ancestral Herbal Infusions will support the indigenous community, acknowledging their cultural heritage. With plans to enter the export market, Brussels Wellness Teas will be available for purchase online and in leading supermarkets across Sri Lanka. The event showcased Brussels' commitment to offering high-quality, scientifically validated wellness products. Let's take a short commercial break. Global business updates coming on the other side. This is the Nightly Business Report. Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report. Most Asian stocks rose today, extending recent gains amid cooling concerns over US President Donald Trump's planned trade tariffs. Regional tech stocks tracked gains in their US counterparts. Australia's ASX 200 rose 0.7% after consumer price index inflation data for February came in slightly below expectations, with underlying inflation easing. Japan's Nikkei 225 and Topix indexes rose 0.3% and 0.2% respectively, but trimmed early gains after Bank of Japan's Ueda warned of further interest rate hikes. Japanese corporate services price index data for February showed a mild cooling, but inflation remained high at 3%. Singapore's Straits Times index rose 0.3%, while futures for India's Nifty 50 pointed to a slightly positive open. Wall Street stocks ended higher as investors assess plunging consumer sentiment data and bet on a more flexible trade policy stance from the Trump administration next week.
U.S. stocks closed slightly higher on Tuesday, with the Dow and S&P 500 notching nominal gains and the tech-heavy Nasdaq climbing just under 0.5%. Shares of Apple rose more than 1%, helping keep the Nasdaq in positive territory, while Nvidia slid. Weighed by worries that President Trump's tariffs would fuel inflation and hurt economic growth, the S&P 500 is down about 2% so far in 2025, and it is on track for its first quarterly loss since June 2023. Among other stock moves, Tesla shares rose about 3.5%, adding to a 12% rally the previous day. The company's market share in Europe continued to shrink in February as sales of the all-electric car maker dropped for a second month, even as EV registrations overall on the continent grew. Shares of KB Home fell over 5% after the home builder cut its full-year 2025 revenue forecast. And shares of original meme stock GameStop, down at the close, climbed 6% in extended trading after its board unanimously approved the addition of Bitcoin as a Treasury reserve asset.
Apple is set to avoid a potential EU fine and order over its iPhone browser options after making changes to comply with new big tech regulations.
Apple could be about to fight off a possible fine and an EU order over browser options on iPhones. Sources said Tuesday the tech giant made changes to comply with EU rules aimed at reining in big tech. The European Commission launched an investigation in March last year under the Digital Markets Act, or DMA. The Commission was concerned with Apple's design of the web browser screen on its iPhones. They thought it may hinder users from switching to a rival browser or search engine. The sources said regulators are expected to close their investigation early next week. Any EU decision would come amid tensions with US President Donald Trump. He's threatened to impose tariffs against countries that levy fines against US companies. The EU competition enforcer declined to comment. The DMA sets out a list of rules for big tech and aims to make it easier for people to move between competing online services. And it also tries to open up space for smaller rivals to compete. Companies risk fines of as much as 10% of their global annual sales for DMA breaches.
So that's all from us on the Nightly Business Report for today. We'll see you again tomorrow with the latest updates across the business globe. Till then, I'm Anuradhi Vikramasinghe. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.